Some players are handed the spotlight, others have to take it. Mark Sears didn't arrive at Alabama with 5-star hype or NBA buzz, but now he's the heart of Crimson Tide basketball, a lethal scorer who thrives when the pressure is highest. From overlooked prospect to program-changing superstar, how did he make the leap? And just how far can he take Alabama? Let's get into it. What does it take to elevate a program to the next level? In college basketball, it only takes 1 or 2 great players to show that a school has what it takes to be a star destination. But it's not always easy being one of the first guys to buy in. Today, let's look at one of the first true superstars that Alabama basketball has ever had. Where did he come from on his way to becoming the face of Crimson Tide basketball? And what about his game makes him such a high-ceiling player? Let's dive in and ask, how good is Mark Sears actually? Mark Sears was born in February of 2002 in Muscle Shoals, Alabama, to his parents Chad and Lamika. Chad was a former NFL quarterback who pushed his son to be the best athlete he could be, while Lamika focused on cheering Mark on at all levels. When Sears began getting real attention in high school, his mother also gained notoriety for her loud and proud support of her son, a pseudo-cheerleader for any team he played on. Sears' resume building began in 2019, when he was a junior in high school at Muscle Shoals High. Despite a relatively unhelpful roster around him, Mark led his Trojans to a regional championship, scoring 31 of their 64 points and collecting a tournament MVP on his way to the state tournament. After coming up short, Sears and his family looked for a better opportunity for his senior year, and he transferred to Hargrave Military Academy in Virginia. At this point, Sears had already garnered some collegiate recruiting buzz, but in his senior season, he poured it on, averaging 14 points, 3 assists, and 5 rebounds per game in a much more competitive setting. Hargrave finished the 2019-20 season with a 37-4 record and went all the way to the Final Four of the National Prep Championship. After his season concluded, Sears quietly committed to Ohio University, and the Bobcats brought him to Athens as one of just 4 true freshmen. At the beginning of his collegiate career, Sears saw some action, but couldn't work his way into the starting 5. His first real opportunity came in the back half of the 2020-21 season, when Jason Preston, who had been starting at point guard over Sears, was limited with a leg injury for a 4-game stretch. In those 4 games, Sears started 4 times and averaged 14.3 points, 4.3 rebounds, and 8 assists. Having capitalized on the opportunity to show his development in easy chemistry, Sears was given more and more minutes down the stretch and finished the season on the All-MAC freshman team and an almost guaranteed spot in the starting lineup for the following season. I say almost guaranteed because Bobcats head coach Jeff Bowles challenged Sears to improve his shooting and work harder in order to truly earn his place among the starters in just his sophomore season. Sears answered this challenge by passing on his summer break. He remained in Athens and claims to have shot about 15,000 3-pointers while working on his jumper. This grind paid off immediately, as he started all of Ohio's 35 games and averaged almost 20 points per game while shooting 40% from 3. Sears was named first-team All-MAC and was even a finalist for the Lou Henson Award, honoring the top mid-major player in the country. But Ohio missed the cut for the NCAA Tournament, and their top offensive player once again looked for a bigger stage to dance on. He entered the transfer portal a week before the 2022 national champion was even crowned. Mark was one of the most sought-after players in the portal in 2022, which he entered alongside 2 other Ohio teammates. On the other side of the conversation, Alabama had just been unceremoniously dispatched by 11-seed Notre Dame in the 2022 NCAA Tournament, and their 2 top players, including point guard J.D. Davison, were going pro. They went all out in the recruiting process in 2022, bringing in a pair of All-Americans in Brandon Miller and guard Jaden Bradley, but they also extended a hand to Alabama native Sears, which he eagerly accepted. Sears excitedly announced just 8 days after entering the transfer portal that he was coming home, set to play for his hometown team, just 150 miles south from where he started playing ball. The adjustment to playing at Bama wasn't immediate, and playing alongside top prospect Brandon Miller wasn't the same as being the best player everywhere he went, but Sears adjusted, starting every one of the Crimson Tide's 37 games while averaging 12.5 points per game and adding 3.5 rebounds and 2.6 assists. His stats depreciated across the board as he entered the more competitive SEC, but his ability to create plays for his teammates and play to his team's strengths made him an integral part of their 29-5 season, helping Alabama become the top-ranked team in the country. In the 2023 tournament, Sears was was the team's leading scorer with 15 points in their first round win over Corpus Christi, but his shots didn't fall against Maryland, where 4 of his 6 points came from free throws. In the third round, Sears stepped back up, scoring 16 against a rising San Diego State team, but that and his 10 rebounds couldn't overcome Bama going 3 for 27 from 3 as a team, and the favorites to win it all were dropped in the Sweet 16. Despite the disappointing ending, Sears made second-team All-SEC for his junior season efforts and even declared for the NBA draft before withdrawing and returning for his senior season in Tuscaloosa. After the 2022-23 offseason, Brandon Miller left Bama for the NBA, while Jaden Bradley, who would have battled Sears for the starting job, transferred to Arizona. These moves left Sears as the guy who needed to step up once again, and when called upon, he put up numbers that put his Ohio days to shame. He once again won on a full season without missing a game or a start, and he played almost 34 minutes per night. With all that court time, he racked up 21.5 points per game to go with 4 rebounds and 4 assists, as well as 2 steals per game. Alabama was certainly weaker without Miller's dominant presence, but Sears held down the fort, taking the Crimson Tide to a 21-11 record. They dropped to Florida in the SEC tournament, but were placed as a competitive 4 seed in the NCAA bracket, and that tournament is where Sears showed his colors as a legitimate superstar. In the first round matchup against Charleston, Mark dropped 30 points with 4 boards and 5 assists, playing almost the entire game against a hot shooting team. A few days later, Sears laced him up again and dominated Grand Canyon, spending his 38 minutes on the court doing it all. He scored 26 points on 5 for 11 shooting from 3 and secured the double-double with 12 rebounds. His 6 dimes tied for the team lead, and his 3 steals made him the total package. But round 3 was when the tournament got real, with Alabama taking on 5th-ranked 1 seed UNC. Sears cooled from behind the arc against North Carolina, but still scored 18 points, and despite not having his best day, got a key defensive rebound and layup in the final few minutes as they squeaked by the Tar Heels. He got back in form against Clemson in the Elite 8, scoring 23 points without visiting the free throw line a single time. But the run had to end eventually, and once again, Sears couldn't find himself as the best player on a championship team. He scored 24, 5, and 3 against eventual champions UConn, as Alabama was outscored by 10 in the second half. Wrapping up that season, Sears had shot over 50% from the field and almost 44% from 3. He was named first-team All-SEC and led the Crimson Tide in points and assists. The 2024 tournament was the perfect encapsulation of who Mark Sears is, as an excellent team player. He can facilitate with the best of them, and he never wants to leave the court. His defensive rebound numbers alone show that he is the prototypical point guard you want to bring the ball up the court. His most known trait, however, is certainly his ability to run an offense, creating his own shots in tough spots with excellent body control and placement. When his shot is falling, he can be ridiculously deadly. When it isn't though, he can be a bit of a detriment. Sears doesn't blow you away anywhere else on the stat sheet. At just 6'1", 190 pounds, he's not super physical. And while he's a good passer, his career high in assists is just over 4.1 per game, which is low for a star point guard. His other flaws come on the other side of the court, where he can sometimes be a defensive liability, especially when his turnovers put his team on the wrong side of a court flip. In 2024-25, Sears saw the highest amount of struggle, despite the team improving overall. He was benched in a January game against LSU, but rallied in the following game against Mississippi State, totaling 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 9 assists. He really hit his stride in February, posting consecutive 30-plus point outings against Missouri and Kentucky, before firing in another 30-point game against a very talented Florida Gators side a couple of weeks later. He closed out the season on another dominant pace, averaging 19 points on the year and a career-high 4.9 assists per game. His game all around became cleaner and more consistent, with fewer slumps and more team play. Thanks to these adjustments, not only did Alabama surge back into the AP Top 10, but Sears became just the second player in program history to be named first-team All-American. Sears was far from subtle in showing that he could have gone pro after either of his previous 2 seasons, which means it's clear for everyone to see that he has his eyes firmly trained on a championship entering the 2025 NCAA Tournament. While some scouts raised concerns about his effectiveness when not the center of the action, he's taken significant strides in being a more all-round team player, and all signs point to him being a solid role player at the professional level. In both Ohio and Alabama, Mark Sears has been a program changer, elevating every team he's played for. He's helped turn Alabama into more than just a football school, and his basketball IQ is already at a pro level. But now comes his biggest challenge yet. Can he do it at the next level? Scouts question his size, passing, and defense, but his leadership, scoring ability, and fearlessness, those aren't going anywhere. Will he carve out an NBA role, or has he already hit his ceiling? One thing's for sure, counting him out has never worked before. Well, what do you think? Drop your take in the comments.